Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is June 10th, 2024. And I did mention last Friday that this was going to be another longer video on Monday following up what occurred over the weekend close. We're actually going to postpone that. I'm not feeling 100%. So we're just going to cover Bitcoin. Today we will check in on the other coins that we normally would. But not in any real depth, just to see where they are and reiterate some of my thoughts regarding some of the price action. So in this case, we're going to start out with Bitcoin here on the daily. This is the longer term chart. I did want to point out a few things here. So for those of you that might be new, the swing high is marked up here now. I know that some that were new to looking at charts were like, well, where's the all-time high at? And this is now marked here. It's 73.835. And the swing low of this particular range is also marked here at 56,500. So you can see that Bitcoin is hanging out in this very strong half, or right below its prior, right above and now below its prior cycle all-time high at $69,000, but right around its current high side structure. Now, it is currently starting to lose this $69,000 area. If it does head down to the lower first, around the upper $67,000 to $68,000 area, there's really no problems. But if it does start to lose that area, be aware of this lower second standard deviation around the bottom side of the current consolidation lows. That is coming in at roughly 66,800 to 66,850. If that area is lost, well, I would be looking for a bit of a markdown to at least an area for price replace band at around that 65,850, which is this low right here, anywhere below there, and we're looking back to $65,000 and possibly this lower high structure over here at $64,000. It's fair game, actually, anywhere below really 66,800 to be quite honest. But in this case, that would be expansion down into prior support. And then, of course, we would want to see where Bitcoin is currently trying to use this lower high structure from its most recent price action on a swing high and closing high basis from the 23rd of April. It's trying to use that high side structure as support, and it has successfully gotten a bounce off of that, of course, getting that resistance right around the highs here at that $71.5 to $72,000. So, until $72,000 breaks, and if that is the case, and we do see $72,000 break, or any closures above the upper second standard deviation, in this case, coming in at around 71, well, we need to see additional criteria met in order to look for price to expand up further. And that would be any kind of I would say, intraday, medium-term time frame, like a 4 or 6 hour above $72,000. Then start looking at that daily as possibly closing above the upper second and breaking out of its local resistance at the highs here. And then we can start entertaining the highs and higher again, back to 73 to 73.835, and then 75 to 78, 78 to 80, mid to low 80s from there. You can reference Friday's video still. All of the longer term analysis is still valid for that. All right, now let's go ahead and look at a few more things here that have to do with a little bit more local price action. And in this case, we're going to drop to a 4 hour. And I want to show the interplay with, well, let's explain how these boxes changed. The prior chart that I was just showing you had historical support and resistance areas. And this local chart is the local support and resistance areas from the prior trend. So I actually remap these whenever the trend changes and then shifts back. So in this case, we had a downtrending structure here. So Bitcoin went into daily downtrend, and then we had an uptrend. So then this entire trend is mapped out for support and resistance. And if this uptrend shifts to a downtrend, then I will remap this. Generally, it stays about the same, but I will remap this to be based on the uptrend. Now you will see that shift around. Hopefully for the bulls, they won't see that shift around in this range, but in a different range higher. But as it stands right now, I did want to drop to the 4 hour, kind of give you a heads up on what's going on here. So we have, Bitcoin coming up to its high side structure around that 71,600 to that 73,835 at the highs, finding that area as overhead resistance. And then you can see over here on the way up, Bitcoin had found some support locally after this nice bounce off of the 67.2 to 67.5 area. We saw a nice drive up to the mid $70,000 and then up to that 71.5, almost $72,000 area. On its way up, we saw that there was a beautiful order block candle after the breakout of this high over here. Now this order block candle came in on higher volume, indicating that there was a large portion of sellers in and around that candle. Price did push past it. Now that would be this candle here. Price did push past it and then go up and hit the overhead resistance. But we did see that a low was set here. In this case, a closing low and a swing low was set right here on this candle. So I have this area as a green zone. And this is something that in some of the servers I managed to get to before price spiked it, but I had shown it in a few select servers here that, hey, before price gets here, just note that this is the main overhead resistance right around this closing low to wick low area where this high volume order block candle came in. And so that has shown to be resistance. And, that's a zone between around 70,082 to 70,000, we'll call it 472, 475 area. If Bitcoin does start closing above there, then, I would be looking for not only expansion, but a breakout to go retest this local highs and possibly higher around the $71,000 to $72,000 area up here. But in this case, if it breaks down from where it's currently threatening to break down from, and that is this red zone, lose its local low structure here at around that 69,200 to around 68,300 down here at this wick low, which is the next highest volume candle in the most recent price action that we've seen. We've seen two very high volume candles. To be fair, one was the larger bull candle here, but it's really all about that bear candle on the other side of that. That was, quite a lot of volume on that candle. Excuse me. And then we saw on the rejection, the second rejection of the overhead resistance, we saw a nice bit of high volume come in on this current 4-hour candle here, coming in from Friday. Now Bitcoin is currently going down to test it, and it's threatening, if it does close below the lower second and then close below around 68,300 in this case, I would be looking for it to play somewhere around, unless it just swings it and closes back in, which is fine. Wicks through are fine, but any closes below that wick low, and of course this would be, at this point, if it closes below there, would be below the lower second standard deviation on increasing volatility, which is, it would in general be pointing down to the 67,275, 67,300 area, all the way down to our $64,000 zone. So I did want to call that area out. It is pretty important to watch here in the early goings of this week. And, if we start seeing any closes even intraday below this area right here at around, 60, I would really call it 66,800, which would be just below that lower second. If it starts closing below the range wick lows here, and especially if it loses 65,850 by the lower third, we're looking at aggressive expansion down into $64,000, $65,000 over here by the most recent lower high from the prior downtrend. So, it was tested on the way up. Gonna be tested on the way back down and maybe down further. Who knows? But as long as Bitcoin is hanging out right now above around that, I would really call it 68,300 right now on a closing basis, then it can avoid going for the mid to lower $67,000 region, but I would keep a close eye on it here. Now, that is going to pretty much do it for today. That's kind of all I got in me right now. Let's check on a few other things. Yeah, you see bearish divergence populating here on the 4-hour with expansion, and it's already pushing the low side structure. This does look as though it wants to head down and test into the high 68s. High 66s. It's currently testing into the mid 68s. So I would say the high 66s to the mid to low 67 region is the most likely area to go test if we do see this bear div playing out and we see this expansion confirm. Now the daily Stoke is pointed down on any closes below $71,000. Of course, that's basically, that's actually a little bit lower than the overhead resistance right now at that 71,600 or so. 4-hour is pointed down. This is what I would be watching. The 4-hour here is pivoted at 69,122, and the 12-hour, and I would be watching the 4-hour and the 12-hour, even if it does break down towards some of the targets below its local, where it's trying to set its local lows at. 69,900 is still the 12-hour pivot. So for the next 12-hour period, I would keep a close eye on that 4-hour, kind of where things start to land. I can tell you right now, it doesn't look great at the moment, unless bulls step in and in between now and the next, 1 hour and 41 minutes before this candle closes and turn it into a wick. Otherwise, it could even head down here intra candle. Yeah, there it goes, and spike some of this area right here. So it looks like bulls don't have the appetite right now. We can even go down to a 15-minute while this is actually breaking down. There's some volume though, so they might try to turn this one around in terms of volume. Now I can tell you that taker buy sell ratio is up, but we had like a build up in leverage sideways and up, and there we go. Bulls are getting washed out now. So we had some bears getting washed out, but not really anything significant in terms of liquidations. We're really not seeing anything significant in terms of liquidations for the bulls either. I mean, it was all pretty much last Friday is where the bulk of it was done. And then prior to that, it was, bears continually taking it on the nose right there on the way up to test the overhead resistance at the highs. So, this is definitely continuation as well, even on this 15-minute. Nice compression to expansion through support. It did try to save itself with high volume within the red zone here. Broke down, or tried to close inside of it, and then once it started to break down, it's got to go search lower for some bids. So, it's pretty well tapped this area for bids, as you can see. Probably only a bigger player in there willing to pick it up in the zone. Everybody else is looking lower, plus stops and liquidations. So, this is spot. You're really not going to get liquidations, but I'm sure there are plenty happening on exchanges as relative to the time frame. All right, that's going to do it for Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and just check on ETH real quick. It's probably not doing too well right now either, but it's still in the area of interest that I spoke of. The danger is that this expansion continues, or it closes below this lower second on the daily. And expansion continues on any breakdown below 35.20. If you do see ETH beginning to break down and closing below there on a daily candle, look left, because there are some low side structure is right on the high side structure here. There is a little bit there at 3,300 to 3,350, but that's where I'd be looking, and then anywhere below there, looking 3,100 to 3,200, and then right back to the main support there at 2,825 bucks to $3,000. So that would be a full-on retrace of its ETF news pump. Now, excuse me, that is not inherently the most awful thing in the world. But if we did start to see things break down below like 2672, 2700 or so, then it's big problems. This is showing the etchings of expansion, but it's right around support, so I would give it a chance to see how it plays out through the rest of today. It's fresh expansion on the 4-hour for ETH as well, so they want to see bulls pick it up. To the upside, if it can start breaching back above and closing back above around 37.25, then things look a little bit better for the bulls. Still have to regain around 37.70 to 3,800 to start getting things revving back up to the highs and higher, but it could at least save itself. We got CAS still hanging out, same zone between now 17 cents after spiking its highs and higher there, almost to 20 cents. Man, just missed 20 cents there up there. It's still above the basis band on the daily, still very strong. I want to see this consolidate a little bit more and then see it pick itself up off the floor and move on. Sol, same thing I mentioned in the longer form video on Friday. Does not look great right now. 167 is going to be the momentum pivot. Get rid of volume here. Chart's a little cluttered here. Uh, and if it starts breaking down below 153, especially on a close, you can look a little bit lower to this area. 153 is this close open high side structure right here. You basically have two close open highs here. Kind of swing high, close open high that was legit on this third candle. This guy didn't really get a third candle below, slightly below on this guy down here. Not significant enough, but basically two high side structures, whether it's a swing or a close, really doesn't matter. Around the 153 to 150 region, anywhere below there, we're looking to that main support area at 148 to about 135. I know the line says 136.94. It's about 135 even, so it's a big area, and you don't want to see Solana losing that. That would not be good, especially when taking into consideration that it needs to try and crawl its way back above 158 by the end of the week to preserve its upside momentum on the weekly. And it's already painted the swing high here. So, we do want to see it, at minimum hold around the basis band, which is around 150. So let's go ahead and just jump back to Bitcoin real quick, and then we're going to wrap this up. Bitcoin on the weekly did close at green. Okay. So I do want to call out that this did close as a green candle. Right now, it's already, within the Monday into Tuesday candle, already coming back down and retesting its prior weekly candle. You want to see it holding around roughly that 68,500 area from a weekly time frame perspective to this low side structure around 67,200, which is already basically marked there at 67,272. So that's the next big area to look, especially if we see the 4-hour close below around 68,300, which it's got some time to pick itself up off the floor here on some of the lower term time frames, but it is worth watching as it is threatening to possibly move there in the next couple of 15-minute candles. All right, that's going to do it for me today. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all that being said, Landy out.